Hi Dennis Bulldogs, it's Mrs. Johnson, your school counselor, and today, like I promised last week, we are going to talk about habits, and specifically we're going to talk about this book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens, and we're also going to be using the workbook. And as I mentioned, you do not need either of these books to participate or to learn something from these videos. So the first thing I want to start with is a poem, and the poem is titled, Who Am I? And so as I read it, I want you to start thinking, who is this poem talking about? What's this about? I also want to apologize while you're watching this video because you may see me have to stop in the video or see me losing my voice or sneezing or sniffling because I have a cold right now, and I just wanted to explain that. So everything's fine, just a normal cold. So we'll start with the poem. It's Who Am I? I am your greatest companion. I am your greatest helper or heaviest burden. I will push you onward or drag you down to failure. I am completely at your command. Half the things you do might just as well turn over to me, and I will do them quickly and correctly. I am easily managed. You must merely be firm with me. Show me exactly how you want something done, and after a few lessons, I will do it automatically. I am the servant of all great individuals, and at last, of all failures as well. Those who are great, I have made great. Those who are failures, I have made failures. I am not a machine, though I work with all the precision of a machine, plus the intelligence of a human. You may run me for a profit or run me for ruin. It makes no difference to me. Take me, train me, be firm with me, and I will place the world at your feet. Be easy with me, and I will destroy you. Who am I? And the answer is, I am habit. So it sounds like habit has a very strong place in our life and can either make positive or negative changes. And so today, this is just a foundational video to talk about habit in a general sense. So a habit is a behavior that you repeat over and over. And a lot of times we're unaware of the habits that we have. So we're going to talk about positive, negative, and actually neutral habits and things that we may do. And as we're, exploring this world in this book, we are going to try to change a negative habit that we have that is creating issues in our lives. So we're going to talk about some questions that you can ask yourself in regards to your habits, and then we'll talk about examples for each, and then I'll give you a little bit of homework or an exercise to try. This is really important to focus on a habit that you feel like you want to change, so that as we move forward, you can use some of these lessons and some of this information to help you change it successfully. So we need to consider a positive habit. So think of something that you feel like you do every day, whether it's exercise or painting, writing, creating something, reading. There's a lot of positive habits. And you need to ask yourself these questions. Why do you keep it in your life? Like, why does it work for your life? What good results do you get from this habit? So what's something good that happens from this positive habit that you have? And we'll talk about an example to help you further think about these things, but just something to consider. Also, what is a bad habit you have? Why do you have this bad habit? How did it get started? What bad results do you have from this habit? So what bad things happen because you have this habit? Do you want to change your bad habit? And that's probably the most important thing, is you have to want to change it. So you don't want to focus on a habit during these lessons that you don't really want to change. So for example, although I would like to get up earlier because I feel like I would have more time to do things I enjoy, I honestly do not want to get up at 5 a.m. That's just not a habit that I actually want to change. Now, there may be something more reasonable like getting up at 7 instead of 5, but we have to make sure we're reasonable with ourselves and that we're being realistic. So, let's talk about an example of a good habit. So my example was I read every day. I love to read. I do it either before bed or just during the day, especially now that we are at home. I'm reading quite a bit, and I feel like I keep it in my life because it helps me to relax, which I talked about in a past video. I feel like it's entertaining, of course, especially if it's like a science fiction book or something that takes you to a whole nother world. And it's educational, so it exercises my brain and it's healthy for me. And what good results do I get from it? I learn. I get to escape, which is usually a good thing. Now, if you're trying to escape all the time, that's probably not a good thing. But, getting an escape, just like we do whenever we watch a movie or something like that, is totally fine. And like I mentioned, I exercise my brain. It helps my brain. So consider your positive habit, and I'll have these questions listed below in regards to, questioning these things and why they're in our lives. It's important to have some self-reflection. So an example of a neutral habit. Now, this is something, until I read this book, I never really considered. But there are some habits that we have that aren't bad or good, and they don't really need a lot of reflection, but it's just kind of fun to consider them. So I'm going to give you an example of mine. So I pour my milk in my cereal bowl before my cereal. I know, gasp. And I put my left shoe on before my right. So these are things that, now you may think I'm crazy for putting the milk before my cereal. Maybe you're a diehard, I put my cereal before my milk. But those are things that don't really impact my life, and whether it's positive or negative, it doesn't really matter. Do you have any of those types of things? I'd love to hear about them. You can send it to me in Canvas if you have a neutral habit or a positive or a negative habit that you're trying to work on, and you'd love for me to know. I would love to hear all about it. So an example of a negative habit would be I eat chocolate more than I should. So I absolutely love chocolate. Everything chocolate, I will eat it. Chocolate is good and it works. So the reason I keep it in my life is because obviously it tastes good, and in the moment it might feel like it relieves my stress or gives me something to look forward to. I know if you've had dessert, you understand what I mean, but it's not good to have things all the time. It's better to have them in moderation. And then we have to consider, why do I want to change that bad habit? So for me with chocolate, I want to change it because it creates bad blood sugars for me. So I'm a type 1 diabetic. So I need to eat it in moderation. And it's just not healthy to have something sugary like that all the time. And it's not a healthy way to deal with stress either. So it's important to find other positive ways to deal with stress instead of just stress eating. So we're going to focus on the bad for a second. And so I want you to think about a bad habit or a negative habit that you have and that you're wanting to change. And I want you to think about these questions that I've written down here. What can you do to replace this bad habit? What's something positive you can do? So for example, instead of eating chocolate, I could journal, watch a video, like a funny YouTube video, drink tea, or I could wait 30 minutes. So if I really feel like I want chocolate, I don't think that you should deprive yourself from it, but maybe I should wait 30 minutes and make sure it's not just because I'm stressed out. So I will have those questions down below, and we will talk about what we can do to replace those negative or bad habits going forward. Tomorrow we're going to talk about what is called paradigms and principles, and I'll have a little bit more information on that, and hopefully some fun questions to get you thinking. So please feel free, like I mentioned, to message me on Canvas. I would love to hear from you. And just know that I'm sending you all my love, and I miss you, and I can't wait to see you soon. See ya.